Limited to only 999 units in the world, this is the Mini John Cooper Works 1-6 edition. Very possibly the last ever manual gearbox Mini would make. Here in Canada, this thing is just under 57,000 Canadian dollars. Is it expensive? Yes, but it's also limited edition, which means you might just get away with being immune to depreciation. Welcome back to PRN Test Drive, and let's get started. Back in 1959, Mini made this front-wheel drive front-engine transverse layout very popular, using an 850cc engine paired with a 4-speed manual gearbox, producing all of 34 horsepower. Fast forward 65 years later, the 850cc is now a 2-liter engine, and the 4-speed manual is now a 6-speed manual. Power output has also increased by almost 200 horsepower to 228. This inline-4 engine here also has a turbo, making a lot of torque, rated at 236 pound-feet of torque. This being the John Cooper Works edition, of course it also has a sporty exhaust. Let's hear how that sounds. I actually think that Mini has put in a lot of effort in the cosmetic department to make this thing look special. Starting from the front, the 1-6 edition only comes in midnight black, and it also has all of its accents, pieces, and trim pieces blacked out, including the Mini logo up front. If you notice, there is a graphic stripe flowing down the center of the car over the roof to the back, which is pretty nice. But if you take a closer look, the stripe is actually made up of hundreds of little 6-speed manual gear pattern or shift pattern, which is definitely an Easter egg, and I really like it. Now, of course, this is a John Cooper's Work edition, which means you get a front hood scoop, even though it's fake nowadays. Nonetheless, you still get it, and a more aggressive front bumper design, as well as the John Cooper Works logo. I also really like this headlight. It's so iconic looking, and now the outer circle is the daytime running light, and the center is also blacked out for just that much more of a stealthy look. Off to the side, you get a couple more of the 1-6 badging, one on the fender and one on the C-pillar. You also get an exposed gas cap design, very reminiscent of the older style Minis. I really like them. In terms of wheels and rims, you get 18-inch rims, black alloy rims, as well as 205 wide Goodyear Eagle F1 tires. In the front, you also get huge red brake calipers, which provide you with huge stopping power. And the cherry on top is that you get a floating center cap. One thing, however, is that I don't really love these black rims. I think I would prefer something with a little bit more concavity, or maybe just a little bit of a more aggressive offset. Now, of the whole car, I actually think the rear looks the most sporty, with its super aggressive diffuser down here, as well as the twin center exhaust pipe. You also get really good looking spoiler here that sort of dips in the middle. I just think it looks very racy. Now on the trunk here, you get yet another 1-6 edition badging, but this time around it is just the 6-speed shift pattern. Of course, another John Cooper Works label here, which again looks quite nice. Off to the side, the Union Jack taillights, a signature for Minis, and I love it. It's great. Very British, let's put it that way. Opening the trunk, you don't get a whole lot of space down here. Of course, it only pretty much fits my backpack side to side, but you actually get a second level under the trunk floor, which is super useful. The back seats also not only fold down, but you can lock it into an upright position, allowing you to put a little bit more things in here, for example, a suitcase. For the interior, I actually want to start off in the rear seats, because if you thought that a 3-door Mini means no space in the rear seats, you thought wrong. Look at this, I fit in here just fine. For reference, I'm 5'9", and I still have a good few inches of legroom in front of me, and I still do have enough headroom as well. I have about an inch on top of my head, and I'm sitting very much upright. The rest of the interior in the back seat here is also not as bland as you would think. I get 2 speakers on each side from the Harman Kardon sound system. I get access to this beautiful sunroof. I also get 3 cup holders, 1 on the side, 1 on each side, and 1 in the center as well. I don't get an armrest here, but the seats back here are also very nice with these cool patterns as well. Continuing from the rear, you get your second sunroof, but this time you get 1 of 999 printed in huge fonts up there, just to remind you that you're driving a limited edition Mini. Of course, you also get a few more of these 1 to 6 edition badging, like 1 of 999 on the left, 1 to 6 on the right, as well as 1 to 6 on the scuff plates here and the floor mat, and so on and so forth. The rest of the interior is also very beautiful with these super nice sport seats with suede materials, leather materials, as well as some fabric down here. Red stitching, of course, is necessary for a sporty car. It also has square patterns in the center, which again looks very, very nice. One complaint though is that the side bowstring seems to come out just a little too much, that it interferes with my steering. Up front, I get pretty nice screens, a head-up display that's fighter jet style, which means it pops up when you turn on the car. It also shows you the rev counter if you're in sport mode. In the instrument cluster here, it is a half digital screen, which shows me my rev counter on the left, my fuel gauge on the right, and some more information in the center. I can also scroll through different information in the dash with this BC button on my turn signal stalk, like my fuel economy, trip meter, stuff like that. The center infotainment screen also has a second trip meter that shows you that you can reset manually, which is great. So you have trip A here, trip B here, so on and so forth. The infotainment here has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is great, but this system takes a bit of time to learn how to use. Although after that, it's pretty nice. You also get 6 of these shortcut buttons that you can set up to, say, set up Apple CarPlay, your sport dials, sport gauges, so on and so forth. Down here, you get 3 of these beautiful metal pedals that are traditional of Mini Cooper design, which I really appreciate, and I think they look really, really fantastic. But the most fun part of these interior are actually these switches. I really like these lever style switches. They're so tactile to use. I even get some up on the ceiling here, which makes me feel even more like a fighter jet pilot. In the center console here, there's not much space. In the center here, I get a wireless phone charger. Unfortunately, my phone is just too big to fit in there. Mini, please just make it slightly, ever so slightly bigger so I can fit my 14 Pro Max in here. You can lift the whole thing up. You also get a physical handbrake, which is nice, but down here is kind of a waste of space because all of these doesn't really have a wall or barrier on the sides, so if you put something there, it just slides off or fly everywhere. The shift knob is not as short throw as I would want, but it does feel pretty nice. And we've gotten to the shift knob point, so I think the logical next step is to go out for a drive. Okay, first things first, sport mode. Wow, not bad at all. It bogged down in first gear a little bit. My traction is still on, but not bad at all. I think I'm ready to go steal some gold bars, just like Jason Statham in The Italian Job. Very nice. With a curb weight of around 1,300 kilos, the 228 horsepower feels substantially quicker than you think in other cars, especially since it's strapped with a turbo, making the torque even more powerful, and it just feels so much quicker, especially in such a small car. I find myself doing second gear pulls in this car a lot because once I let off, I hear turbo whistles as well as occasionally some pop-pops from the exhaust, which is quite fun. But unfortunately, I just wish that the exhaust characteristics were a little bit more amplified. I find that the exhaust sounds and the intake sounds are too muted in the cabin. I really have to roll down all the windows to really hear all of that. In terms of handling, these sort of mid-speed 50 kilometers an hour turns is really where this Mini Cooper shines. Oh, so much grip. It gives you plenty of power still from the 2-liter engine, but none of that wheel spin that you'd get off the line. The John Cooper Works does not have a front limited slip differential, which is kind of something that I would expect from this kind of vehicle, but the torque vectoring does do a pretty good job. Of course, you would still expect a little bit of understeer because this is a front-wheel drive, front-engine vehicle. Okay, so what about the transmission? The transmission feels pretty good. The travel is long, but it still feels pretty notchy. There is automatic rev matching, but only in sport mode. You cannot get that in any other mode, nor can you have a button to turn it on and off manually. One major complaint is the amount of rev match that this engine has. It really takes a lot of finesse to do a really smooth shift from first to second, or even from second to third, because if you're not gentle with the clutch or slow with the clutch, you know, you would lurch forward. Ooh, these. Oh, so nice. Taking these turns, this car feels so great. All right, let's tone it down a little bit. Those turns are really, really fun. But what's great about these small and light vehicle is that despite having a sporty setup, a sporty engine, they can still be quite efficient. And I was able to manage around 6 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway and about 9 liters per 100 kilometers in the city, just really depending on how spirited you drive in the city. These are amazing and fantastic numbers considering how much fun you're having in this sort of vehicle, especially this one. It's so fun. The auto rev matching does make me look really cool. There's, however, one area that I'm not quite pleased about in this vehicle, and that's safety tech. Aside from parking sensors and parking camera, you only get emergency brake and lane departure warning. You're missing out on lane centering, adaptive cruise control, and most importantly, blind spot warning. If you want those features, you're gonna have to sacrifice the manual gearbox and get the 2025 model year, which is a brand new generation. In that, you get all of these safety features. Overall, this Mini has its shortcomings, but I still like it very, very much. It has such a big personality when it comes to design language, from the iconic shape, especially the 3-door version, to the center ambient lighting ring that shows you not only your temperature, you know, it goes from blue to red when you switch the temperature, it also even shows you the rev counter when you set it into that setting. It's really quite cool how much detail they put in designing these sort of things. And not to mention, of course, that it's so fun to drive. Oh man. I finally understand why people buy Mini Coopers. It's just so fun to drive. I feel like I am literally in a scene in The Italian Job. To sum it all up, if you still have the chance to, go out and buy one of these 1 to 6 edition, because there's gonna be no more manual Mini Coopers ever again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.